So, getting a degree in science is hard. It's a hard thing to do, it takes a long time, and there are a lot of hours, weeks, months, years of frustration. And in that years-long effort, there's not a lot of hopeful or lighthearted moments to think about what you're doing. It's pretty much one long marathon of extremely difficult tests until graduation day. So I wanted to make this video from the other side, someone who has collected the precious science degree and knows the real world benefits of getting to tell people that you have one. Also, this video is meant to pump you up, to give you some encouragement, and maybe tell you some things you haven't considered about how cool it is to have a science degree. And the only way to do that is to get kind of braggy about myself and what having the degree has given me. So this is me acknowledging that part of this video. If you wish I was acting more humble, I don't know, go find a history major or some shit. And on that note, the best thing about having a science degree, hands down, is that everyone thinks you're smart. Everyone who meets you at every party or event or passing encounter will be impressed and a lot of times in awe at the fact that you have the legendary science degree. Usually you get some kind of, "Whoa, you were a chemistry major? You're way smarter than me." Then the person starts talking about how they failed chemistry and there's just no way that they could have ever learned it, and how they got pretty good grades but they just couldn't learn chemistry no matter what. Then I usually try to tell them that they definitely could learn chemistry if they wanted to, but it requires a good teacher and dedication. And then they say, no matter what, I wouldn't have learned it. And then I bite my tongue instead of going into a rant about how students are made to think their limitations are their own fault because of the flaws in our educational system. Also, it's a great conversation starter because people are just generally interested in talking to someone who knows science. I feel like I've felt the same way when I meet people with certain careers that just seem inherently interesting, like a chef or a driller on an oil rig. After you've done the 1-2 step of them saying they could never learn chemistry, you're already in a conversation and it's a natural transition to talk about their career or let them ask you whatever other questions they have about science. And my ego isn't so insane that I would be feeding off these "you're so smart" compliments. They actually mostly feel kind of awkward because this person you've never met before is insisting that you have a certain quality, but just like a sunburn turning into a tan after you're away from the exact interaction, it's kind of nice to realize that now your life has these built-in compliments in it. You know, every time someone learns what you studied in college, you get a nice little boost of someone thinking you're smart, and you know what? We are smart. That person wasn't just impressed that you're smart, they're also impressed that you followed through and accomplished a really hard thing. And the way I see it, I'm never going to get any of those hours I spent studying back, so a little compliment Easter egg system in my life is kind of payback. And the one exception, of course, is when you're in a group of people that also have science degrees. In these situations, a clear pecking order is established based off career accomplishments, what school you went to, and if you have a PhD or not. And if you don't meet the groupthink standards of what those scientists think is sufficient for existing, they'll actually view you as dumb, lazy, and sometimes even worse than someone with no science experience at all. Number 2, job security-ish. Having a science degree is by no way a guarantee to get a job that you like or a job that pays well, but it is kind of a guarantee to get you a job. To break it down further, obviously a lot of science degrees have direct lead-ins for specific jobs, and those vary greatly in job availability, difficulty in obtaining those degrees, etc. And maybe you're thinking, well, I'm just going to get one of those direct jobs and that's it. And maybe that is what's going to happen to you. But none of us know exactly what's going to happen to us in the future, and so it's always possible that life forces you down a path where you are going to be looking for work, period. And if you ever happen to find yourself in that particular quandary and you've obtained a science degree in your past, then it's kind of like having a net underneath your tightrope act. With any science degree, you immediately stand out in a crowd of people applying for jobs that don't require one. And that's just because of my first point about everyone wanting to learn more about you when they find out you know science. Every job recruiter is fascinated by this resume that evokes beakers and explosions. Plus, they're already assuming you're smart and responsible. You're kind of buying yourself flexibility by working so hard to get a science degree. You can work in science and pursue those jobs, but if for any reason you need a job quick or want to make a change, you're still an exciting candidate to a ton of other jobs. Plus, if you don't want a boss, you can always be a tutor and earn a living wage wherever you are within a few months of getting set up and getting new clients. Number 3, you can hip check doctors. I have some less petty reasons why having a science degree is cool coming up, but I really wanted to put this one earlier in the list because I've done this so many times and it feels great. You know how doctors are mostly condescending assholes? Well, this one simple trick will put them in their place and force them to accept your self-diagnosis. I have a rare chronic illness, and so I've been in a lot of situations with doctors that had never heard of my disease, and because of that, I guess it means that my disease isn't allowed to exist in their minds. It took me 10 years before I got the correct diagnosis, and dealing with insufferable doctors that didn't believe me and used every available opportunity to tear me down was almost as bad as never being able to go into the sun. So then once, unrelated to my disease, I was getting my IUD replaced, and the gynecologist at Kaiser wouldn't do it because of Sky Daddy, so they had to call the random doctor who just floats around doing whatever. So he came to the room, and he was super chill. We got to talking after I passed out when he replaced it, and he had to revive me using smelling salts. And I was like, I didn't know smelling salts were real, but they are, and they definitely wake you up somehow just by smelling weird. And I ended up mentioning that I taught chemistry, and watching the wave of respect go over his face from, this is a random person I'm assuming I'm way better than because I'm a doctor, to, oh wow, this person knows more chemistry than I do, uh-oh, my confidence game is a little thrown, was so powerful. And I was like, this is how much the cool doctor who I liked changed his game when I mentioned chemistry. Holy shit, I'm using this all the time. So now, if a doctor is ever acting sassy with me, or if I need to request something or buy cred, you better believe the interaction goes like this. So, what are you here for today? Well, I drove straight here from my job of teaching chemistry at a college level. Where'd I go to grad school, you ask? Well, naturally UCLA. Anywho, I'm allergic to the sun, now give me some fucking meds. It doesn't matter that that's not my job anymore and that I dropped out of grad school. I will keep trolling asshole doctors like this until I die, and so should you. 4, you get to understand the world in a unique way. So to recover from the pettiest point on this list, here's the most optimistic and profound I could think of. Besides job security, prestige, all of the reasons that are front of mind when it comes to why people choose science as a career, let's really pull back and strip down what science is. Science is a way to understand the world. And not in weird abstract terms, I mean literally understand the world. The things that we learn about in class that are stressful for exams are also things that took thousands of people thousands of years to learn. Mankind collectively walked us to this point where when we see water boil, we know the lid doesn't rattle because it's ready. It rattles because we're forcing heat into a system, and that when enough heat is added to the water, which is actually trillions upon trillions of molecules, we can force some of the bonds holding them together to break and form pockets of gas that burst against the lid of the pan with enough force to rattle it. And that's cool to know. It's cool to understand the world. It's cool to see water dripping out of a tailpipe and to understand why the nature of combustion reaction means that there's no way it couldn't. It's cool to know that when you smell poop, it's because tiny poop molecules are inside your nose. It's cool to know why so many of the drugs we ingest, recreational, medicinal, or both, have so many similar properties. And it's cool to know that I'm allergic to the sun because when I was formed, my DNA did everything right except make that one mistake. And considering that a lot of other mistakes could have made my life a lot worse or ended it before it began, that maybe it's okay that I can't go out in the sun. Still sucks though. And no one can take these things away from you once you learn them. They're yours to know, yours to spend a quiet moment marveling over the fact that we really did it. Our ancestors learned that you can't turn pee into gold no matter how hard you try. But if you run enough experiments, you might learn something else. And as a result, we get to have this amazing technology-filled world that exists all around us. Number 5. Knowing that you can complete really hard work and aim for goals. Unfortunately, getting a science degree probably won't be the last really hard goal you have to work towards in your life. However, at least for me, it was such a monumental accomplishment in my life journey that once I had it, once I was really out of school, it was like, oh my God, I can do this. I can set my mind to do something. And over the course of years, I have what it takes to stick with it and actually accomplish that goal. More than the degree itself, this little achievement badge I had in my life arsenal has brought me so much pride and fulfillment. As I'm sure you know, you sacrifice a lot to make this accomplishment happen. There are so many times when instead of turning to relaxation or fun, you have to turn to grinding away, memorizing, and commitment to work. Knowing that that was the type of person I was, that I could rely on myself to accomplish such big goals really allowed me to expand and try out things otherwise I would have been scared of. It also gave me a roadmap of what hard work turned into success looks like. So many things in life, especially the really juicy ones that pay off only years after you started down a certain path. For huge chunks of your life, you just have to have faith in this outcome you know is possible. And being able to reflect back on my academic accomplishments later in life gave me the confidence to believe in myself as I stretched into other things, including this YouTube channel. I didn't know if anyone would care about my content, and I knew if they did that I'd have to do hundreds of hours of free labor and hard work and wait years until I saw a payoff. So that's what I've gotten out of my science degree, accept the degree, and all the things it directly brings you. I'm curious to read in the comments, what are you hoping to get out of your degree? Or if you already have one, what little extra bonuses have you noticed that it's gotten you? You know, besides the deep knowledge that you're better than everyone else without a science degree, which is really why we do this all in the first place. Just kidding.